that you can't have a cheat day. You can't do anything in moderation. Like I tell people, thermonuclear waste in moderation. Is it okay for you? It's not. So no cheat, no moderation, just follow the diet.
Rusty, how did you find carnivore?
Well, I had done several diets. I started back in 97. I had moved down here to South Carolina, and a friend of mine was a vegetarian. And I tried it for a little bit. And of course, anything off of the mainstream diet makes you feel a little better. I did lose some weight from it. But for 7 years, I realized, I look back now, I ate all the wrong things, a ton of soy and a ton of corn. And thought I was doing the right thing, thought I was being healthy. I went back to eating some chicken and pork through the years, and but I didn't go back to eating red meat. I ate red meat up till 97, liked red meat, but heard such horrible things about it. You know, everybody's told us it's the devil. You know, it'll kill us. And so I stayed away from red meat for several years. Probably about, at this point, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I decided to go straight vegan, still trying to cure. The pain kept getting worse, the joint pain, the different things that I had going on, and just felt like shit and trying anything. So I said, well, maybe I need to get stronger. I'll go vegan. So I did vegan for 2 years. Was pretty strict at vegan. And again, ate all the wrong products. Ate all the products that caused the inflammation. So I decided I'm done with vegan. I know keto seems to work. So I went toward the keto aspect of it. I did that for about a year. I started out at about 310 pounds. We had taken a trip. I pulled a muscle on my chest, thought it was, I thought I broke a rib. Went to the doctor, had a blood pressure of 200 over 100. This was February, I believe, of 21, right after COVID was starting to come back and you could get out. So South Carolina, we were open. We went to Florida, and on that trip, just felt horrible. Came home, went to the ER the next morning because I thought for sure I'd broke a rib, and it ended up being just a pulled muscle. But while I was there, we found the high blood pressure, decided that we needed to do something about that. They kept trying to put me on statins because my triglycerides were, I believe, in American terms, I think it's 150, and I was 153. They said, well, you have high cholesterol. I said, my total cholesterol is like 150 total. My triglycerides are 150. So I decided I'm not doing the drug route. I tried blood pressure medicine years ago. Just made me feel worse, give me different side effects. So I decided it's time to get serious. Did the keto for a good year. Was watching Dr. Ken Berry's videos, and which I see so many people, attribute him to switching over to the carnivore diet. And he says, well, I do this and you do this and this for keto, but I do this and this because I'm a carnivore. And I was like, carnivore? I've heard of that, but I really never dove into it. Then I started watching his carnivore videos, and then I got to Paul Sardino. At that time, he was still carnivore. The list goes on and on. All these real doctors and how they had fixed their body and how they've had other people and success. And so I would say for the first couple months, and this is right around 2 years ago, for the first couple months, I did what I called very dirty carnivore because I was still eating chicken and pork. I'd started eating red meat when I did keto. And I started feeling a little better. Of course, you feel better when you lose 50 pounds. But I went to the point that I wanted to be. And the weight didn't really come off any different on keto as it did when I went to carnivore. When I started the weight loss really, really went a whole different aspect. You know, I lost my chin. You see, I still have a loose amount here. My face cleared up. My um, legs toned up. There was a lot of different things happened when I switched over to carnivore. And of course, as I go, I cut out the pork. I cut out a lot of the chicken. Um, Definitely stayed away from the seed oils. Uh, of course, I'd already been sugar free doing the keto. Then I, got away from all the grains. The cravings went down. Um, my biggest kryptonite, and to this day, I say to this day, I haven't done it for a couple months now, is raw milk. Give me some raw milk, some monk fruit sweetener, and some cocoa powder, and that's my kryptonite. And because we did dairy off and on and never went away from cheese, I dropped weight down to about 230 pounds. I'm 6'1". And I stuck at 230 pounds. I've stuck there for almost a year and a half. So about 3 weeks ago, again, decided to get real serious about it and did just a straight line diet. We've now introduced eggs back, and this weekend we introduced back some bacon. And try to be, of course, bacon is probably your dirtiest when you stay to the straight beef, bacon, butter, and eggs. I have incorporated bringing back in trying to eat a full stick of butter a day along with everything, because all the research I hear and what everybody says is it's all about fat. So more fat, more weight loss. So that's kind of where I'm at. A lot of things have improved. A lot of things have improved way different than they ever did on any other diet or any other pill regimen or vitamins, which I'm glad to say that I take none now. My biggest challenge is getting electrolytes in because the body stays in ketosis. But because we drink filtered municipal water here, I wish I had a 400-foot well and could put my own water softener in. But we're not quite to that point yet. I can't talk my wife into going out in the country and homesteading and getting away from the city life. We're not in the city. We're in the rural area. But the city is coming to us, and I'm ready to leave. so that's that's kind of where I'm at. There's a lot of things I'm still working on, and that's a long summary, but that's kind of where I'm at now.
That's awesome. Congratulations on the weight loss. Like that's 310 to 230. That's great. So how is the joint pain going?
There's some days better than others. Overall, I went from 7 to 9 down to a 3 to 5. I'm for the past year, I can tell, like, if we go out or we have some people over, we'll make a big charcuterie tray. If I eat too much salami and pepperoni, here it comes back to joint pain. If I do too much dairy, it comes back to joint pain. So I can definitely relate to that. If like we did a cruise this spring or last fall, and now that I'm into eating just quality food, to me the cruise food goes down and down and down. Yeah, they got some pretty fancy pastries, but I don't eat any of that garbage. I'm looking for the meat from the carving tray, and one I took a couple years ago, I'm pretty sure we were carving processed meat on the carving tray. So I do get pickier and pickier about what I eat. Uh, you take your chances with a lot of international crowd to order. I'm sure you have this issue where you live, and sometimes you get something comes out that you think is correct, and sometimes you're like, yeah, I'm not eating that because it's full of seed oil or something else.
Definitely, and you can get something that looks pretty good, but you just know there could be the smell, it could be just the look of it. It's like, nah, there's seed oils all over that. I'm not touching it. What's the thing that's really kept you going with this? Is it the the desire to be rid of the joint pain completely? Is it the more the weight loss aspect?
I do want to lose another 15 to 20 pounds. And I could replace that with muscle. I'm fine with that. I'm very active. I do fabrication work in my own shop. I'm a self-contractor. Up until 20 minutes ago, I was out in the garage wiring a panel. And so I stay active. I stay on my feet. I move around. But probably the weight loss is probably secondary. Mostly it's health. One of the biggest things that drove me to this was that I've had I'm 55 years old. I had a friend that was a couple years older than me that was very active with me when I used to race cars up north, and he's died of cancer. I have other friends, not as close, but they have died of cancer. My father passed away from Alzheimer's. My mother, just spoke with her on the phone through FaceTime with my sister, and I don't even think she knows if she's in the right state or not. Seeing people pass away like this, my grandmother passed away with it years ago. It's more like quality of life in your senior years. I don't want to think that I'm getting old at 60. I want to think that I have another third of a chapter to go at 60. And that's the biggest thing. The obviously feeling better, which I do. I'm down here in the South, so being formerly redhead, and you are a redhead or close to it. I know that I was going to ask you, the biggest thing to me outside is the sun. I crave the sun now. Before, I wore a hat, got an umbrella, and put long sleeves on to walk to the garage. I didn't want to get in the sun. My wife said, "We're going to the beach." No, I'm not going. And I hated it. Now I actually like it. If I don't get my morning sun, I don't feel right. How's that affected you at the sun?
Yeah, I used to hate the sun as well, mainly because, for me, going to the beach was an exercise in putting on so much clothes, not taking them off, like going to the beach to protect myself. It was like putting on a boiler suit and a diver's helmet. Um, but now I actually enjoy being in the sun. Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
noticed hair color coming back? I don't recall from your first videos I've watched of you, but some I get
Somewhat.
slight amount. I've seen
Yeah.
people that have 100% success with hair color, and I've seen people say no, it just turned gray, but I'm not at 100% yet. So I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I know the hair is thicker. I go through razor blades quicker, so maybe it's getting there. I did a small experiment at 3 or 4 months. I was overly excited, and it was thicker back in the region that was really, really thin. So I thought, well, maybe this summer or so, after doing just straight beef, bacon, butter, and eggs, and no dairy, no cheeses, I would see if that aspect got a little better. But one of the big things is, from age 14 or 15, I've had sinuses. My sinuses have been so messed up. Went and had the deviated septum operation. Year and a half later, got in a bar fight with a friend and naturally got my nose broke. Probably did away with the deviated septum operation. But in the last 3 months, I can breathe again. And we can go even into the CPAP thing where my numbers are going down. So I know that it's working. I now know what I don't want to eat. The other night, my wife bought French fries for my daughter. She was coming over. She wanted some potatoes. And I'm huge on reading labels. I'm very strict on it. And she didn't read the label. So she had them in the oven. I dug the label out, and it was, sweet potatoes, and then garbage, more garbage, 3 oils. I think there was 4 sweeteners and 3 oils, in sweet potato fries, plus flour and rice. And I literally took them out of the oven and threw them in, and she wasn't really happy with me. I was like, no, I know my daughter is 20 and my son is 22, and they're going to go out and eat the wrong things, but I'm not going to be the drug dealer at home. And so, I am going to cook an Easter dinner. It is going to have stuff that have sweets and and different aspects that they like next weekend, but it's going to be about as clean as I can make it, as per their standards, and they're still getting the home food. So I'm over eating garbage, opposed to, like, my wife's only been carnivore for a year. She still struggles with it. I understand that. There's a lot of social thing. We don't go out to eat much, because you go out for a $30-$40 steak, and even the waitresses and waiters are just like, but we got to bring you the side. No, you don't. And they'll bring it in to-go boxes, and I'll leave it sitting at the table. Like, sir, just don't waste the food. Don't bring it to me. And then, of course, you have to coach them. Is your steaks on grills? Do you use any type of oil? Do you use any kind of finishing sauce? Don't. What's your spices? Was your steak soaked in anything overnight to make them tender? No, don't. I want just a straight up pink steak, little bit of salt, stick it on the grill, a couple minutes on each side, and bring it to me. I want it so a good vet can have it back on his feet in 15 minutes.
Nice. So, like, you're completely past that craving stage. Like, something could be sitting in front of you, and you're just like, I'm not interested in that.
About a year ago, we had just put Mom in the home, and she loves the Boston cream filled donuts. So at this point, we're not saving this car. So I went and got her some donuts, and of course I took one out and had icing all over your finger. And what do? You stick it in your mouth. Oh, that was the most horrible shit I ever put in my mouth. So no, I can walk past a plate of cookies in a cruise ship, or at somebody's house, and I don't even have to taste it. I know there's people that take a spoonful here and a sample here and a sample there, and I've heard about people on podcasts, and a lot of the Facebook groups that I follow. Some of them give some really horrible advice, and some of them don't. But you get the realistic about it. Well, I fell off the wagon last night, and felt like shit for 2 days. So I'm like, yeah, just don't. You can't have a cheat day. You can't do anything in moderation. Like I tell people, thermonuclear waste in moderation. Is it okay for you? It's not. So no cheat, no moderation. Just follow the diet. Jordan Peterson says it's insanely boring, and it kills your social life. But I feel much better.
That's right. Like, it's kind of that thing you got to decide, is it better to feel better, or is it better to have this flamboyant social life and wake up with joint pain every day, Yeah.
Did that for 50 years. Now I'm trying to do something different.
Yeah. So what was it that made your wife decide to go across?
She saw that in the first year, she saw all the effects that, all the weight that I lost. Unfortunately, a couple things happened to her. She ended up getting appendicitis about 2 months in. She thought it was food poisoning. I just assumed it was food poisoning, what she thought. She came home, laid in bed for a couple of days. I knew she was really sick because she wasn't watching any of the women's shows on TV. And so after about the third day, I'm trying to give her bone broth and trying to get her to eat something, and putting a raw egg in a glass of milk or something. And like the third day, the pain just lifted, and she was like it clicked. Well, 11 days later, the pain was slowly getting worse and getting worse. For the first week, we thought it was just the food poisoning. Because if you look up food poisoning symptoms, they're almost exactly identical to appendicitis. So when she was coming home from work one day, she called me and she said that one of her coworkers mentioned that her collar had changed. I said, "Where are you at?" And she told me what intersection. I knew, the next intersection up there was a emergency room tied to the hospital that we use. I said, "Go to that emergency room. I'll be there on the way." She goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." We at that point we'd already started thinking that it might be appendix, and her doctor scheduled a test, but if you just schedule a test, it's 2 weeks out and insurance and blah blah blah. We should have just went to the ER in the first place when she had the food poisoning. It hadn't ruptured at that point. We look back and both doctors, her general doctor and the doctor that did the surgery, believe that she's been walking around for 11 days with a ruptured appendicitis. Well, there was so much garbage inside her, she had to go several rounds of antibiotics. And of course, then I'm trying to fight that with raw milk, and unless you get some kefir or something to get the protein or the gut biome back correct. So her gut biome was messed up for over 2 months with all the antibiotics she was off and on and off and on. And, she would go off of them, and a week or so later, the fevers would start again. But there was just so much poison in her body. They cleaned as much of it out as they could. Literally, we just had a doctor's appointment last week, and the tumor mass, whatever you want to call it wasn't really a tumor, was a mass, disappeared to nothing, and the other went from the last measurement was 4 centimeter down to 1 centimeter. She still gets some of the pain here and there, but me and her kind of calculated up that the pain is her healing, the poison getting out of her body. So with that going on for 2 months on her first, so that was her first 4 months of carnivore. I do believe that the carnivore diet may have helped the fact that she survived for 10 days, 11 days before the sepsis started setting in. And she was still going to work. She never missed a day of work, which, women are way tougher than us. And so she went through all that, and she's really not, because of the pain and the different things that was going on, she hasn't felt like exercising and moving as much. She used to be a fairly avid tennis player. So she has not reaped the benefits of weight gain. Her body is changing. I can see that it's changing, but like Patrick Swayze said in Roadhouse, sometimes it's got to get worse before it gets better. She's not gaining weight by no means. So her kicking and fighting, we've tried to stop the cheese. I'm having no problem stopping it, but she's like, "We got all this cheese in the fridge," and we found some really good old aged cheeses, and she loves cheese on her eggs, and so that's been a real tough thing to get her to step away from the dairy. And I believe if I can keep her off the dairy, we've recovered from the appendicitis incident that was 10 months ago, that it will get her kicked in gear and she'll start seeing the same effects. This is a very slow game. I want to tell people that think that there's so many stories out there to people, and I see them on the things that in 3 months they've done this and done that. I'm thinking, wow, you had great results. My onion must be a lot thicker than yours, because one of the things now that I seem to be battling is it's possibly either a thyroid or Hashimoto's. I'm cold all the time. My temperature. We bought a new thermometer, and I actually started using it. When I'd get really chilled, I'd go in and I'd run anywhere from 95 is the lowest, 96 to 97 degrees when I'm really chilled. And when I'm not chilled, it's like 97.8, where it's a degree low. And it's pretty consistent. The thermometer seems to be consistent because on her it's right on. So I think that it's always been there, but I was overweight, well insulated. I used to sweat when I swim, and now I don't sweat near as much. My body's regulating different. Things are pumping on different cylinders, so it's kind of the growing pains of healing. And so that's one of the things that I'm fighting with now. I got some blood work coming out this week, and then I go see my general doctor next week. I sent him a message to increase my panels to do the thyroid testing. I definitely don't want to take any of the synthetics. There's some natural and synthetic drugs. I'm trying to already battle it with extra iodine. Ken Baker said 2 drops of iodine. He had somebody on a few months ago that said, "Oh, we are way more iodine deficient." I am here on the coast. I do eat some seafood, shrimp and oysters and scallops. Try to get local caught as much as I can. So I should be getting iodine that way, but they're saying that even the foods that are iodine rich has been depleted so much. And so we're almost to the same position as the people in the Midwest that aren't anywhere close to the coast.
How are things with like your kids? Your kids, you're throwing the sweet potato fries away. They can see mum and dad kind of eating this just meat and eggs and things like that. How do they feel about it?
Um, they're pretty decent with it. This My daughter's been dating this one guy for a couple years, and I joke with him. I said, you hit the jackpot. And he said, why is that? And I said, well, you got my beautiful daughter, blonde-haired, blue-eyed daughter, and whenever you come over, her dad fixes you steak all the time. And he told me after a few meals, he said, yeah, he goes, when Jocelyn said you was going to cook steak, he goes, I was kind of worried because I'm kind of particular about my steak. And I'm like, oh, you are? And he goes, yeah, but your steak in its worst days are better than any steak I've ever had. So I actually went out and bought a what's called a gravity fed smoker, which will drop as low as 160, 200 degrees to smoke meats if I want to do a brisket. Because if you store buy brisket, it's got so many other spices on the outside of it, and they usually end up putting sugar on it. Or it will crank up to almost 700 degrees and sear steaks. So I just about killed that grill. Last night it was taking a long time to get up to temperature. So it may be past its expiration date because we use it a little harder than normal. So yeah, he likes it real well. My daughter, she says I'd like to have a potato or something. And so I actually sent her to the store to buy a real potato. And I have a deep fryer out on the porch that has lard in it, or actually not lard, beef tallow. Because I won't even touch a seed oil. I won't even light my grill with the seed oil. Olive oil, I have good olive oil in a glass bottle that I use to even put on the napkin to light the grill. I don't believe in charcoal or processed charcoal, lighter fluids, just a paper towel with some olive oil on it. Same thing as pellet stoves. A lot of people don't realize that pellet stoves, they put vegetable oil in it to get it to flow through the tube better. And I'm like, oh, now the truth comes out. Somebody had to write, what's the Traeger pellet stoves. So I don't want pellet. I get the real lump charcoal. And the way I look at it, if something drastically happens, and I know we've never seen it in the last few years, but if the food chain or the supply chain got disrupted, we never see that at all. But if it did, I can go out and chop a tree down and still cook my steaks. You had talked about my kids, and I really never got into my son. So my son grew up on hamburgers, and he's about 6'5". He enjoys coming home, eating a steak or eating hamburgers. He enjoys pretty much anything I cook. We was never that family that fed him fish sticks and macaroni and cheese. Whatever we ate, whatever we put on the plate, they ate. And they even when I was vegetarian or vegan, I still tried to cook for him. I still had him do protein shakes. And growing up, they was both active kids. Um, the worst part about um, him is, he's in his young, he's drinking age. He's going out and enjoying it, him and his fiance. And his fiance is a nurse, fresh out. They both just graduated college a year ago. And, she's a very smart, intelligent person, but she's been trained by the drug companies, just like the doctors. So she thinks that I'm completely crazy, and she feels that the body needs carbs. And she may get some carbs when she comes here for special meals, but if it's just a regular meal, you might get a hamburger bun. That's about it, or whatever Duke's mayonnaise that's in the thing to put on your hamburger. So we definitely, our shelves have gotten very bare because we've gotten rid of a lot of the junk. We do still keep a few staple things around for when the kids come, but yeah, my kids don't think that I'm completely crazy. They know I put a lot of research in. I deep dive into research. I laugh because I'm just a podunk welder electrician that seems to know more about diet than most doctors, and I hope that I'm right. But the way I look at it, in the timeline of 0 to 100, 0 to 75, we was carnivores. And, at 75, 80% of this lifespan that humans have been on this earth, they came up with agriculture, and then things started happening downhill from there. So I don't know the exact percentage, but we was carnivores a long time. And when I see a doctor or professional or supposedly expert say that we can't sustain on this diet, I said, but we can. We're living proof that we can.
It does feel like, just on the agricultural front, it does seem like we needed to secure the food supply. So it's like, okay, well, we can grow all these plants and crops and whatever, and we can secure the food supply that way. And then companies realized we can make a lot of money out of this. And, there's a lot of money in changing the nature of these foods to make them into cereals and all this kind of thing. And it's, that's where it's kind of really gone downhill.
Well, the
I
old
guess.
saying is follow the money. It's all about the money.
Yeah.
And you're 100% right. We talk about, I remember as a kid, we was talking about grains, and Ethiopia had the problems back then. And we joked about little thin kids being Ethiopian kids, and they didn't have any food to eat. But you look now, I've took some interest in just watching farm channels and the amount of herbicides and pesticides and the dead field that they have to grow corn and soy in. And I tell people, I said, corn and soy should never be put in the human body in any shape or form. And and the it's fine if we want to try to make alternative fuel from it. Of course, if we realistically charged for alternative fuel, instead of $3 a gallon here in the States, it would be about I think something like $12 or $14 a gallon. If you actually did all the numbers, if there was no subsidies to these places to make biodiesel and gas out of ethanol and corn. So we're still going backwards. And like you say, it's forcing it down the throats of people, all the nasty stuff. But the marketing people at Madison Avenue are telling us, just like they told us margarine was good for us. Tang, it was on the spaceship, or going to the moon. Tang went to the moon, so it must be good for us. Tang was natural flavors, which was sweetener, more sweetener, and then a little tinge of orange, and probably some orange food coloring. So, and you don't even see Tang out there now. But the billions of dollars that the sugar water market is, billions of dollars that the alternative food is. Of course, we're now seeing that the Beyond Burgers and the fake meats are, their stock prices are starting to fail miserably, which, I don't wish bad on anybody in business, but when the truth really comes out, we need to get back to regenerative farming. We need to get back to real farmers, real butchers. I make it a point to, whenever I'm in the towns around me, we got several butcher shops, and some of them use the cheapest junk steak that they can get, and some of them uses only USA grown. There's one of them up the road. He's probably the most expensive. They're probably $20 to $24 a pound for their cuts of steak, but it's his own grass-fed, grain-finished beef that literally they grow on their own farm, bring it to the shop on a truck, and cut it up. So it's about as fresh as you can possibly get. Their price on their meat, if you buy a quarter of a cow, works out to be around $10 a pound, which is fairly high. That's including everything from the ground beef all the way up to the steaks. But you can get it cheaper in different places. But like you hear people say, get to know your farmer, get to know your food source. I go in and talk to the butcher. Where'd this come from? I picked up some bacon, and they said the bacon they had was not red and pretty like everybody else's. It was brown. And they said, all we do is we bring the hog in here, we butcher it, we cut the bacon up, we send it out to somebody that smokes it, and they bring it back. So all it is smoked. I'm like, well, I can deal with smoked. I just can't deal with all the other junk that's in it. And we ate that bacon the other night. It was some of the best bacon we've ever ate. So you can find it. Overall, when you stop buying everything around the plate and you're eating the good quality stuff, you're paying more money for that good quality stuff, but you're not paying the money for everything around the plate and all the desserts and junk like that. So it is out there, but the consumer has to be really, really vigilant around sourcing good quality product. But for the most part, humans, we're lazy. I hate that, but we are. And we're going to go the cheap route all the way down to the Swanson Hut TV dinner.
Yeah, true. We're just built that way, right? We're always looking for what's the easiest way to do things and things like that. Yeah. So, Rusty, if one of your friends came to you, said, "Look, you're doing really well, you look really healthy. I want some of that myself. How can I get started on this carnivore way of eating?" What would you recommend?
Well, naturally, a lot of them have. The first thing I always tell them is, don't take my word for it. Research it. Look up carnivore doctor. You're going to find Chafee and Sean Baker and my name's always Dr. Cruz down in Florida. All these guys are going to come up. You just type in carnivore diet or carnivore doctor. These guys are going to come up. And probably 20 or 30 of them might look it up. Some of them may think they change their eating. I've heard people say, well, I'm carnivore too. Really? You eat no vegetables? Oh, yeah, I still eat vegetables. You have to eat vegetables. No, you don't. and then I have to turn them on to like Sally Horton's book, The Toxic Superfoods. I believe it has to be done in totality to be correct. That it's a tough thing to do. I've had two of my friends have chose to follow it. One of them didn't follow it for very long. The other one still is following it. And he definitely sees the benefits. He started it before Christmas. He fell off the wagon several times, but he's kind of like me at this point. Like I'm done eating this junk, and he doesn't want to go back. he doesn't think he can get his wife to start on it. But it's the same thing, like you said, advertising for people to come on. You know, you tell people about it and they look at you like, the hell are you talking about? And you can't live like that. You can't sustain. And then you say, well, you can. Well, I'm not going to change. I like my sweets too much. I'd rather just live in pain. The guy that works for me, he's been with me for several years, and he's like, yep, I'll just live in pain. I was like, really? His wife fell and broke her hip, has really bad osteoporosis. I said, look it up. I said, she's not getting the quality food, the quality nutrients she needs in her food. And I know they don't eat correct. They're good people. They just don't eat correct. And he's like, yep. He said, I mentioned it to her and she just laughed at me. Unfortunately, that's where we're at. It's like pushing a rope. It's going to take several years. The carnivore diet is gaining traction. I see more of it. I see so many people put out YouTube videos that I watch them just here or there for other reasons. And all of a sudden they come up. Like I tried the carnivore diet for 60, 90 days. I've done it for a year, and all their benefits they get from it. And I'm impressed. Of course, naturally the search rhythm is going to bring them people up to the top first. And I'm impressed that this movement is gaining ground. The biggest thing now is getting the doctors to accept it. My doctor does not think that it's going to be sustainable. He's ran me. He said, well, if you do this for another 6 months, we're going to have to run a CAC test. I said, great, let's run it now. And he goes, okay. So we ran it then, and it came back as a 151. And, anything under 100, nobody pays any attention to. 100 to, it's 300 to 400. It depends on who's reading it. 300 to 400 is considered you're at a higher risk, much higher risk. And then 400 up, and then you hear people at 6, 8, 1200 that are completely obese, completely jacked up on all the wrong foods. And he came back at 151 like it was horrible. I said, Doc, we don't know where the elevator came from. We don't know if it came from the bottom floor or the top floor. We just got on in the middle. We don't know if we were in the middle or we're on the way down. We have to do another test in a year. So we're close to coming up to doing another test. They say, I think it's 5 or 10% that at our age we should automatically increase. That number is definitely going to go up, and I'm calling bullshit to it. I hope my number at least stays the same so I can say, see, told you so. And I'm hoping it drops down. So we shall see. I'm not perfect. The body's not perfect, but I don't know where we started. One of the side effects, 10 years ago, they put me on blood pressure medicine. I had chest pain. I didn't relate it to the blood pressure medicine. So general doctor sent me to a cardiologist. Cardiologist did a stress test. During the middle of the stress test, are you having pain? Yeah, I'm having pain right now. If I exert myself or walk, it gets worse. And we have to do a nuclear stress test. They did a nuclear stress test. I about doubled over. And I'm like, stop, whatever you're doing. And they're looking at the EKG and says, everything's fine. The doctor's like, he starts the fear tactics. Well, it could be the Widowmaker. If I'm a betting man in Vegas, I'd say you're going to die. So cart me off to the cath lab the next day. They did a heart cath on me. And he walked out and goes, I don't know, completely clean. and I said, well, what about the pain? He goes, not my problem. And walked away. Well, he didn't tell me that. He told my wife that because I was still in recovery. And so blood pressure medicine put me in the cath lab. So that's why I never want to go back on it. I did used to notice that if I did anything strenuous, if I was pushing a fertilizer spreader with 80 pounds of fertilizer in it up and down, there's a slight hill at my house, that I would still get that same pain. maybe my CAC score was higher. We don't know. That could have been the reason. Even though I was vegetarian and vegan, I was eating soy and corn oil and canola and vegetable and fried foods and all the junk that causes that. And I was eating a ton of sugar. I wasn't really like borderline diabetic, but my A1C was right there, like another tenth of a point. And they'd be like, you're pre-diabetic or you're pretty close. But my body regulated it. Now, everybody in my family, my mom and my dad and my sister, are all type 2 diabetics. My sister, I've tried to mention to her that you need to change. The worst thing I think we ever invented was that blood glucose monitor. Slap one of them on your arm. You eat whatever the heck you want. You check the number. Oh, we need a little bit more. We shoot it in. We go eat some more crap. And I think that's one of the most horrible things that we've done to ourselves is allowed type 2 diabetics to get worse. Where the carnivore diet cures diabetes. It's almost proven at that. It'll really help a type 1, but definitely cures type 2s. But I told my neighbor that the other day. He goes, my son's been diabetic for years. There's no fix for that. Yeah, there is. But people don't want to relate to that.
Yeah, it's just you've heard so many people have heard so much that once you got diabetes, you're stuck with it in the mainstream media and from doctors their whole lives. They refuse to accept it when you say, well, if you just stop eating sugar and things that turn into sugar, then it's probably going to go away.
Yeah, sugar, carbs, and seed oils. Here in America, we've had the industrial military complex for years. If your buddies at Raytheon and all them need some more money, we just start a war. That's the only reason we're in wars now, is because the industrial military complex. But now we have the industrial food complex and the industrial hospital complex that I'm pretty sure they have conferences together on how to fleece people out of money. We don't want to heal people. We just want to treat them. And that's our, back to the money. It's all back to the money. We don't want to fix anything. But the elites still go out and eat steaks, but the doctors will tell you, don't eat a steak. It's the most horrible thing you can eat. Red meat will kill you. Well, now that I've walked on this side of the field, I'm thinking, yeah. And I tell people it's like I was in the forest and I didn't know where I was going. Now that I've got out of the forest and into the field and turned back around and looked at the forest, wow, I have such a different perspective. And that's where people's got to get. They got to get to that perspective that it's all about what goes here to what happens down here. And it's not fast. It's not a one pain pillar drug away from feeling better in 3 hours. It takes time. I'm 2 years. I probably got another 2 years to go to get where I want to be totally. But we're such an instant gratification society. Just call Uber Eats and have that crap food sent to you right away. But I really worry about our society, but I don't know. I think we're going to get better, but I don't know how much better.
Yeah, I agree. So, Rusty, do you have any social media if people want to reach out to you?
You see behind me my Greenlight trailer. They can do Greenlight greenlighttrailer@gmail.com is my email that you can reach me at. I do custom fabrication, custom work, electronics, electrical, boats, RVs, gates. I'm kind of that guy. When you can't figure out who to call, they call me. I never advertise. I never put out. I tried to get my daughter to follow me around with the camera. She was an excellent editor. I'd probably make some great YouTube content. Just watching the stupid shit I do, I'd probably make some great content. And I'm not like the guys out there doing it on purpose. it just happens naturally. I do, build some pretty decent stuff, and I have a great customer base that they ain't afraid to pay me, and it works out really good. So yeah, I'm not an influencer. I probably should have jumped on that train a few years ago, especially during COVID, and it brought everybody up. But yeah, I'm just a country bumpkin that come from the hills of West Virginia that found out how to eat correctly, and I just wish more professionals would join in and gain it. And I don't know what we can do except just keep, like your podcast just keeps talking about great stories out there, and everybody has a different story, but ultimately they come to an ending that they're feeling better and they're getting better, and or somebody in their family has, and I love hearing that, and I love seeing that, and I appreciate what you do for us.
Cheers. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, Rusty. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.